Hello, I'm so glad you're here today. My name is Mary, and I'm from Mary's Home Sweet Home Creations. And you probably know me if you watched my other videos. And I am here to talk about preschool age children and where they are at in their development. My last video I did on ages and stages of children from 1 to about 3 years old. Preschool age starts, sometimes they start early as 3, but most of them start 4 and 5 years old. Some children are going to pre or kindergarten. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happens for that age group and their child and their development. It's a very exciting time for them, and they're excited to be with other children, to play with other children, to learn new things. And you probably have noticed already that your children are absorbing everything they see and do, and they are just sponges at this time in their life. So, going and being in school with other children, playing with them, having a different teacher than the parents or the caregivers. They have now a preschool teacher or a kindergarten teacher, and they start to really want that interaction with the world. And so a lot of children will tend to just be in awe of their teacher, their very first teacher they have. And so it's pretty easy to capture their attention and to give them some good information, very positive information, and get them excited about learning because they are ready for that. So, as they're going into their first classroom setting and learning rules, they're learning new rules about what happens in this setting. The teacher has some rules, the school has some rules, and so they are finding out that the rules that they had at home are going to help them because they understand what rules are and they understand that they need to follow the rules or there's consequences. And so, as they are in this setting with their other peers, they realize that um, at home, their siblings, if they have siblings, were also following the rules and had to do the things that were expected of them. And now their classmates will also be required to do these, follow these rules and to participate. And but it's going to be fun because they have these new friends to make, and so it's exciting for them. And we as parents should be excited for them, and we should be encouraging all those things that we've been teaching them all along: how to be kind, how to be giving, how to share, how to pay attention, listen, and learn, and uh, follow the rules that are given, and also to have fun at the same time. So, some of the things that this age group will be going through is their large motor skills are are developed. They're ready. They're ready to throw a ball and catch a ball and jump up and down as high as they can, jump over things, and so all these large motor skills that maybe they weren't doing early on or was awkward, they're now trying to uh, get better and better at, and they will be better at it at this age. Um, they can even have more balance than they used to, like hopping on one foot or going on a teeter-totter board and trying to keep their balance walking across uh, a bar or a little board in the playground. You'll see them doing all sorts of things that they're trying to do in keeping their balance and using their large motor skills. And so that is um, something that is going to be happening during this time. And it's fun to, they get a little more competitive because they have other peers there. So one child will say, I can do this. Can you do this? And then the other child say, yes, I can do that. And then they will try it. And so it's good to have a little bit of that competition so they can all be trying new things and seeing what, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. And it encourages them to try things, try new things. Um, the other thing is their small motor skills are getting better at holding the crayon or the pencil, and that is called the pincer grasp. So I talked about that a little bit. That earlier in life, that's one of the first things you will see. Babies will be able to pick something up and hold it in their hand, something small. Then they're getting that pincer grasp down. So at first they have to like kind of hold things, but not really. And then they're able to grab onto things, and then they are able to grab little things. And so all of those progressions are important in a baby and a toddler's progression, just like crawling and walking um, are important parts of their development. So each piece of that development is important. So at this age, they're doing other things, bigger things. Um, so at this age, they can actually start to draw a picture. If you say, can you draw a picture of a person? Can you draw a picture of me? Or can you draw a picture of your classmate Joey? And at this age, they actually have some idea what that means, that there's actually a head and that there's eyes and a nose and mouth and ears. And they can start to build a person. It may not be perfect and it might be a little out of proportion, but they know the parts that are there. The body, maybe they draw shoulders, maybe they just do a stick figure. They know there's arms and legs and hands and feet. And so at this age, they're actually taking everything they know about their body and other people's bodies and putting it all together and saying, I can draw this. I can draw a person. So encouraging them to do that is really going to help them in school and in all of their skills because they will have some art, but they will also have writing. And writing is it's really important that they are able to control their pencil and to make those letters clearly. Um, and so drawing is helpful for that. The beginning of doing all of that is being able to just draw a circle, draw a triangle. They'll be able to draw a square. They might not be able to draw a diamond yet or a hexagon, or they may not even know what that is. And so it's really an exciting time for them to learn that they can do things like this. And so those are some of the things that they'll be learning in school if they haven't already from you at home. And it'll be helpful for them when they're there if they've already learned it. And then in their intellectual development, they're at a point where they can start recognizing that they have needs and they have things that they would like or not like, things they don't like, and they're able to express that and say and be able to say it in an appropriate way. And they'll be learning this too in school, Like, we don't talk out without raising our hand, and they figure that out. That's not really how it is at home. But in the school setting, they will learn to raise their hand to be able to say something instead of shouting out. And it might not be in that first year they're still shouting out and getting excited, but eventually they will learn that. They will learn um, how to sit crisscross applesauce, or hopefully they will get to do that when they get into school. Right now, there's some things that are a little different because of our COVID situation, but I really hope that we're all back to the normal ways that we do school for the little ones, because it's so much more fun for them to be able to get on the floor in a circle and just really enjoy learning and being with their peers and their teacher. And sometimes right now uh, it's not the same as it used to be. Let's say they do sit in a desk, and they do, the difficulty with wearing a mask and being able to communicate and to learn language and to watch someone's mouth when they're reading and talking. All of that is so important. And without it, it does put a strain on our children's learning ability. And for them to be able to hear what you're saying. Um, but in a normal setting, they are going to be just absorbing all of that and sucking all of that information in, and they just grow and learn so quickly. So we are hoping that all of that will be coming back to normal in the school setting. At home, you can be practicing all these things with them. Make sure that they're looking at your face when you're talking. Make sure that they're looking at you when you're reading to them, or all of those types of things are going to help them in the long run with their language and with their expression and with their drawing a human person, all of those things. Um, they're also going to be developing um, some ideas about life that they maybe didn't know before. Um, they may have experienced some sadness in their life, or maybe someone passing away, and they're going to be asking questions about these things, like, you know, what happens when we die? They'll be asking these questions because they're so interested in everything. Um, and, the answers that are given should be um, age appropriate, but give them some clear answer for that question without it being too above their heads. So that's something you kind of have to think about maybe ahead of time. So when it does come up, you'll know how you want to share that. Um, and then when they go to schools, preschool or kindergarten, their teachers probably have heard this more than once, and so they might have their own answer already prepared for that. And um, they might read a book that has to do with something that they're curious about, and they ask some questions about that. So they're very good at asking questions at this age. So we need to be prepared for their questions, but also encourage them. Don't push them away and say, I don't want to talk about that, or I'm not going to answer that. If it's not a comfortable question, you could ask the other caregiver, father or mother or grandparents, somebody else to answer the question, see what they say. But if you discourage the questions too much, they're not going to keep asking, and then they don't learn what the answer is. And then they ask someone else, maybe their friends, and maybe their friends give them the wrong answer. So it's best if it comes from the parent, the caregiver. At this age, they're also developing more of their language. They are going to be at the stage, well, I think we talked about this in my last video, that by the time they're 3 years old, they have like 900 words. And by the time that they are 5 to 6 years old, they have 2,000 words. So it's hard to believe we really have all those words, but we do. And they might not be perfect words, but they're absorbing every word. And so they are going to start retaining those words, and then they're going to start being able to do full sentences with you. And instead of saying milk, cookie, and babies and toddlers start just using one word for things, then they start putting those words together. And then by this time, they're putting a full sentence together. I would like some milk, please, mommy. Yeah, they do. Now, some kids could be delayed in their language, and usually if that is the case, by this time, they will have been identified in school that they may be a little delayed um, in their language, in their speech, or hearing. But if that's the case, this is about the time that they will take care of those things. Sometimes they start earlier. If you notice something earlier, usually not until they're at least 3 or 4. And there are programs for those kids to get into speech. And there's only certain sounds they should be having at those ages. Like if they're having a trouble with certain R's, they may not develop that till later because there's many different sounds in the R um, category, and some are according to the age. So they might address the things that they should be able to say by the time they're 3, and the rest of them may not get addressed because they may pick it up or they'll address it later. So, um, but as far as their language goes in this age group, they will be putting all sorts of words together and making whole sentences. And they'll be learning to rhyme. So they'll start rhyming everything, We talked about in my last video too about, or in my reading video I did, about poems and rhyming. And this is the age where they really love that. They love to rhyme and do sing song rhyming jump rope songs, or, you know, Georgie Porgy pudding in pie. There's, they realize Georgie Porgy, that's rhyming, and they start to rhyme things because they notice that now. So you might be hearing a lot of rhyming going on. I still tend to do that with names. I don't know why I do. I love poems, but um, almost every child and every animal I've had has two names because I always rhyme it with something else or has a meaning. Um, Miranda Panda is one, and uh, Zany Zebra, and Tiana Banana. And now I have a Indy Bindi is one of the cats, and also Coco Moco. And now the reason that one had stuck is because I could not remember what we named her at first, if it was Coco or Moco, because we couldn't decide, right? And so then I just started calling her Coco Moco. So she's got two names. So rhyming is a lot of fun for kids, and if you're somebody like me that loves music and poems, you're going to be rhyming your whole life, which is what we do. So you will notice that, and then they're going to start doing some of that toilet talk. They call it, like, you know, they start getting silly about it, like, Joe. Joe went poo poo, or you know, um, my baby brother. went poo poo in his diaper or whatever. They get obsessed a little bit with that whole uh, idea of how, because probably mommy's telling them let's not do toy potty talk is another way. So in school they'll be discouraging that part, and without shaming and embarrassing them, that they all start to really try saying these things to see what reaction they get, and they think it's funny. So we just have to address it in a positive way, not to make it like it's so bad that they're in trouble, because then they start having issues around that, because you want them to be able to say, I have to go potty, or I have to go number two, or whatever it is you call it, they will call it that. And that's when you realize that when they go to school, that everything you taught them to say, and whatever it is you call everything, they're going to start calling that name at school. So just keep that in mind if you think you might need to change some of the wording you use for that. Um, and then also in their social emotional development, they realize, they start to understand who they are as a person, that they're not just mom and dad's little boy or little girl, that they are a person, and that they're important, and they have a say in things. Like in school, they can raise their hand and answer a question, and they can be, the student that knew the answer, and that they start to build some self-esteem around that, and how important they can be as a person, and what they contribute, and in their answers, and being helpful to others, and sharing. If they're being praised a lot for the things they do, that'll help them understand how important they are in that group of people, in school, in their sports, in lots of things. So they're going to start noticing that type of thing, that they're important and they can contribute in a way that makes them a special person. So, um, and then there's a I'm trying to see if I should cover one of these. Oh, they also start to have imaginary friends at this age. They might start earlier even, but they might play with imaginary friends, and um, it's a healthy thing to do, and it's something that most kids will do, if especially if they don't have siblings, or they have siblings they don't have a lot in common with, and they tend to like to play dolls, and the doll maybe talks, or the animal they're playing with talks. Um, or they start saying, this is my friend Susie, she's here to play, and pretend that there is a person there named Susie. So all of that is not unusual, and it doesn't make them crazy or anything like that. It's just totally normal play that helps children develop um, play their interaction with other children, because they're trying it out and they're practicing it as they're playing with this imaginary friend. So if it continues on for a long time, then yeah, maybe it will become an issue. But at this age, it's perfectly normal that kids do that stuff. Um, and then one of the things that has changed a lot is how they identify in their gender. And so, you know, they started to recognize that they're different than mommy. and maybe if they're boys that they're more like daddy, right? Or if they're girls, they say, "Oh, I'm more like mommy," right? And less like daddy. And these days, because of all of the things that are going on for us in the world and the changes that have been made in that area, um, you could have a combination of things that kids are learning at home and that they might be identifying with. And so it's it's a difficult thing to approach in a classroom and in a school setting. And each individual parent is addressing it in their own home in a certain way. So I'm just going to say about that whatever you teach them to identify with is what they're going to know. And they're going to have to share with the other people in their lives. And you really have to know what you believe, what you think is true, and um, how is this going to affect them in the long run? Are they going to be able to deal with, you know, being a boy that is identifying as a girl, or being a girl that's identifying as a boy? What does that really mean for them in a school setting? If they're being raised by two women or two men, and they might be sharing that with others about, I have two mommies or I have two daddies. And really, children are very trusting of their parents. So, whatever you tell them about these things, they're going to believe it and they're going to share it and they're going to um, either feel comfortable with it or not. But there's issues there that you may have to address once they're in the school setting because every family's doing different things. So it's just like anything else. If one family has rules and their consequence is spanking, and another family has rules and their consequence is timeout or redirection, those two children have learned two different things. And so they will probably learn from each other what the differences are and what they like and don't like. So all of that is going to be going on at school, even though we think we've taught our children everything we would want them to know, and maybe even what we would want them to say if someone said something to them. They may not totally understand that yet. And so they might need your help. They might need your help to understand exactly what it is they need to be able to say or how they might be feeling. We need to be talking to them about it. Um, and they will definitely be coming to you and asking you questions at this age because that is what they do. They start learning things from other children and from being exposed to other families and how they do things. So we all have to be ready as parents to answer those questions. If we don't answer those questions, we don't know what they're going to come up with for an answer. So, anyways, so it's a new uh, generation and new things are going on for different families. There's always been families that are single moms, single dads, grandparents raising children, foster parents, and aunts and uncles, and all sorts of things. There's always been that going on. But uh, now there seems to be more. If you look at statistics, there's more families who don't have two parents in the home. And other combinations. So, as the world turns, we have to grow with it, and we have to be able to have the answers that we think are appropriate for our children. So, um, I think for the this age group, um, the last thing that I wanted to share with you is um, that they at this age could start having um, some nighttime fears, nightmares where they wake up afraid and scared of something. Um, Usually it's a normal thing. They've been active all day, and maybe um, there's just something that happened during the day that crosses their subconscious in their sleep, and they wake up afraid. Or maybe they're not going to sleep and they're laying there thinking about what could be, and that scares them. So, whatever the circumstances, if they start to have these kinds of things at night, it's good to comfort them, reassure them, listen to them, um, and just be as understanding as you can without shaming them or telling them they're making it up, because really in their own subconscious it felt real to them and they're scared. So we need to at least acknowledge that they're scared, acknowledge that we're there for them, and that they're going to be okay and they can go back to sleep. If they are waking up and they're having some accidents at night, that can also happen at this age, even if they've been potty trained, because they are very busy and they're not maybe thinking about that all the time when they're at school or out and about. And sometimes maybe they are just so busy and so tired that they don't wake up and they might have accidents. So if that's the case, then you can talk to them about that and what can you do together to make that better. Shall we make sure we go to the bathroom before bed? Should we make sure we don't drink a lot of water right before bed? And that kind of thing. And your children will come up with some ideas to help you with that too, so that you're not having, um, so he or she can start growing out of that by helping them take care of some of those things before they go to sleep. Um, let's see. And so, um, in the very first video I did on parenting, we did the skills strip um, test, basically to see what age group you thought children should be doing certain things. And they uh, are really there to help you kind of feel it out for yourself, to know what is it. Was I taught this? That at 2 they should be getting potty trained? I don't know. I thought maybe it was 3. And so all of these things are really just to help us figure out what we thought we knew, what we've been taught, and what is actually appropriate for that age group. So we're not having those high expectations for children in an inappropriate age group. And also to understand that all children, depending on what's going on in their lives from the very beginning, can have delays in some things. And then there's children that excel quickly in other things. So, um, knowing the basics about what is their age appropriate age for different skills and different learning things is good, but we also have to be somewhat flexible depending on the child. So it's about consistency, patience, love, and empathy If you have empathy for your children and for other people, you can love them and you can care about them and you can be a little bit flexible when things aren't exactly the way that the book says it should be, or the doctor, or grandma, or whoever. That sometimes one child will be on track age wise and another child won't. And maybe they're the youngest child and their older siblings talk for them all the time. They never have to say anything, they never have to answer a question because their siblings are doing it for them. They talk later. And children are held all the time. They never get on the ground and learn to crawl. They maybe don't learn to walk right away. So, all of these things can be different for different children. So, we just need to know the basic age groups for certain things so that we can, um, keep encouraging them to do it. And they will eventually do it, and it'll be exciting to watch them learn, and exciting for them to have conquered something and to succeeded, and to be celebrated in what they do. So, anyways, that is all I have to say about this age group, except they are just so much fun. They are a lot of fun because they're not little tiny babies anymore and they're not all grown up, but they really can do much more than they used to, and they are really fun. So, have a great evening, afternoon, or morning whenever you're watching this. And love your children, love your family, and have a wonderful life.